Hello everyone, and welcome back to Turkish Spotlight Secrets. Settle in, because today we're diving into a moment that still makes hearts race and comment sections explode, the kind of moment that pushed a story from simmering to scorching. You remember it as clearly as I do, that kiss. The kiss that rewrote the rules, the kiss that fans replayed 1,000 times, the kiss that made whispers sound like thunder. And yes, tonight we're talking about it through the lens of two names whose chemistry can turn a scene into an earthquake, Ozan Baba and Sinem, because when they shared that screen, everything else melted away. From the very first time they stepped into frame together, the connection was sharp enough to cut through a crowded timeline. They met on the set of the hit Turkish series many of you fell for, the one fans shorthand as Calcap, a runaway success that rolled out across different markets under different names, but always with the same pulse, the electric pull between two stubborn souls. At the heart of the plot, their characters, Serkan Bolat and Ida Yld, were locked into that deliciously complicated premise we adore in romantic dramas. Bound by an agreement, pretending to be a couple, pretending not to care, pretending that every brush of a sleeve and every lingering glance didn't mean something more. You could see the spark in the way Serkan tried to keep his world tidy while Ida brought chaos wrapped in laughter and defiance. Each episode teased us with a promise, then snatched it back, only to drop another breadcrumb. And all the while, Ozan and Sinem played the game like aces. Let's be honest. Part of why we fell so fast was because it felt believable, as if the air itself got thicker when they stood too close. The banter, the wounded pride, the quiet apologies that never made it past their lips, every beat made you suspect the dam would eventually break. But the show didn't cheat its way to that payoff. It took its time. It stretched the tension across scenes that felt like tightropes, daring us to look down and daring them to admit what we could all see. The story laid track with an artist's patience, letting small gestures collect weight, letting silence say what words couldn't. And then, finally, that moment arrived, as sudden as a summer storm and as inevitable as sunrise. It wasn't a tentative peck tossed to tide us over. It was the kind of kiss that lands after a war, charged with everything they'd been holding back, sparked by arguments they didn't want to have and feelings they couldn't outrun. The camera didn't need to shout because their eyes did it for us. That single moment lifted the entire arc into a different atmosphere. For Serkan and Ida Yld, it was a surrender and a declaration, a confession delivered without a single line of dialogue. You could almost hear the walls collapse around them. And somewhere out there, hundreds of thousands of hearts clenched at once. From that second on, you could feel the shift. The dynamic didn't just evolve, it transformed. Suddenly the dodges and deflections didn't land the same way. Serkan-Ida's relationship, yes, the one that had us yelling at our screens, stepped into clearer light. Doubts were no longer monsters hiding in the corners. Feelings were no longer rumors. Love wasn't a question, it was a challenge they had to rise to. And oh, did they rise? Apologies grew rawer, flirtation ran deeper, and even their fights started sounding less like battles and more like two people terrified of losing what they'd finally found. When that kind of truth hits, there's no going back. And then the world outside the set did what it always does when a scene feels too real to be just acting. Fans turned into detectives, magnifying clips and poring over interviews, reading meaning into a smile here, a glance there. How could they not? Ozan Baba and Sinem carried that kiss like it had a heartbeat of its own, and suddenly the line between fiction and reality looked more like a blur than a border. The behind-the-scenes footage? The joking nudges? The way their body language softened during press, even when they were saying nothing at all? Every detail fed the fire. It wasn't enough for viewers to stay on the surface, they wanted to dive all the way down. Social media did what it does best, it exploded. Trending topics popped up across continents, with fans sharing screenshots, looping the moment frame by frame, and adding captions that turned into rallying cries. What was it about that kiss that made so many people feel seen? Maybe it was the pent-up longing, or the way pride shattered under something undeniable, or how the acting was so lived in that you could swear you were watching a truth unfold. Whatever the formula, it worked. Calcap soared on those waves, and suddenly people who didn't even follow Turkish dramas were asking for clips, for context, for the names behind that kind of chemistry. Of course, the most tantalizing question hovered right where the anticipation lived. Did the kiss start a spark off-screen, or did a quiet spark shape the kiss on-screen? Only Ozan and Sinem know the answer to that, and they've always carried themselves like professionals who understand the difference between a scene partner and a soulmate. But when a pairing resonates like that, people can't help themselves. They hope. They wonder. They write long theories. They send messages that begin with "I'm not saying, but," because when an on-screen love feels real, it awakens the part of us that believes in spontaneous combustion. What can't be debated is what happened to the show's trajectory. Senkakum leveled up, in the ratings, in global chatter, in how the story found its stride. The writers leaned into intensity, and the direction found more silence, more breath, more room for a smile to echo. That singular moment didn't just validate a ship, it powered the plot into its next orbit. And for those of us glued to our screens, it felt like a promise kept. We were witnessing a relationship that had earned its fireworks, one stubborn step at a time. Beyond the narrative, Ozan Baba and Sinem Unsal became the pairing everyone wanted to see together again, whether on a red carpet or a new project announcement. They remained gracious in interviews, careful but warm, teasing without ever pulling the rug from under the mystery. The more measured they stayed, the louder the fans became. A single shared selfie could send a timeline into chaos. A casual compliment during a junket could carry headlines for days. That's the power of resonance. Once people feel they've witnessed real connection, they keep chasing it, hoping it will show up again when they need it most. And what about the legacy? Even after the season's end, the memory of that kiss lived on like a favorite song. New viewers arrived because of it, old viewers rewatched because of it. The scene became a reference point, the standard by which future moments would be measured. Whenever a new romantic drama tried to build a slow burn, you could feel the shadow of Serkan and Ida Yld stretching across it. That's how you know a story has crossed from entertainment into folklore, when it stops being an episode and becomes a benchmark. For us here at Turkish Spotlight Secrets, the fascination goes deeper than a single scene. It's about what that moment teaches us. Film and television can travel across languages, across time zones, across cultures, and still land straight in the center of a feeling. Two performers trust each other, the crew lays the groundwork, the writing hands them the torch, and then everything aligns. Acting stops looking like acting and starts feeling like recognition. You witness the courage it takes to drop a character's armor and let the vulnerability rush in. And yes, sometimes you suspect that the tenderness you're watching isn't entirely borrowed. It all circles back to the alchemy between Ozan and Sinem. He brings that rugged steadiness, a quiet storm in his posture, a gaze that gives away more than a line ever could. She meets him with brightness that can cut through a gloom, wit dancing on her tongue, resolve in the tilt of her chin. When he plays distance, she plays invitation. When she plays fire, he plays shelter. Together, they built a rhythm that made us root for Serkan and Ida Yld even when the plot tossed them into the thorniest thickets. Their kiss was the crest of that rhythm, the moment where restraint finally folded and truth walked in without knocking. So was it just good acting? Absolutely, and that's not a dismissal, it's the highest compliment. Was there a glimmer of something more? That's the question that keeps comment sections alive at 3 in the morning. The beautiful thing is that we don't need an answer to cherish the magic. The uncertainty is part of the spell. It lets you watch the same scene a year later and still feel that jolt, still believe that a confession can hide in a breath, that love can sound like silence right before two people collide. And if your heart thumped a little faster back then, just admit it, you were right there with them. In the end, the passionate kiss for their characters, Serkan and Ida, did more than ignite a romance on the page. It validated a journey, it proved the patience was worth it, and it turned a successful series into an international heartbeat. People posted their reactions. They laughed, cried, shouted at their laptops. Some swore they'd never forgive earlier heartbreaks, others said forgiveness was the point. That's the spell of a scene done right. It doesn't demand agreement, it invites feeling. And with Ozan Baba and Sinem steering the ship, feeling was never in short supply. Before we wrap, consider this. Maybe what we loved wasn't just the kiss itself, but the courage it took to get there. The times they almost told the truth and backed away, the moments when pride felt safer than honesty, the agonizing pace of two people learning how to trust. That's what made the payoff thunderous. The moment you can't fake is the one where both characters choose each other after seeing the worst and the best. And that's why this kiss refuses to fade. It wasn't a shortcut or a trick. It was an answer to a question the story spent so long asking. So tell me, where were you when you first watched it? Did you pause, rewind, and replay? Did you send it to a friend with a dozen exclamation points? Did you sit in stunned silence, trying to breathe again? Drop your memories below, because this community thrives on shared moments and wild theories, and I want to read every last one. Do you think something real flickered between Ozan and Sinem then, or was their poise simply the mark of two artists at the top of their craft? Either way, we win. We got a kiss that belongs in the Hall of Fame, and a pairing we'll keep rooting for, on screen and in our dreams of future projects. Thank you for joining me for this deep dive into a scene that became a sensation. If this stroll down memory lane stirred your heart, hit that like button, share the love with fellow drama addicts, and make sure you're subscribed to Turkish Spotlight Secrets so you never miss the next swoon-worthy breakdown. Until we meet again, keep that moment tucked where you keep your favorite stories, right beside hope, right beside wonder, right where unforgettable kisses live.